going to draw in a pattern. It's a bit like this. This is set to 1/2 of a bar, so it's basically like a quarter note sort of pattern. So we can change this to like 174 or whatever BPM you want to work with. At the moment, we've drawn this shape, but it just sounds like noise. It doesn't sound like a hi-hat at all. So just start by dragging this little crosshair over to the level, and this will modulate the level of the noise oscillator, which gives you more of that kind of like stabby, plucky envelope sound. But as it stands, that does not really sound like a hi-hat. Or if it does sound like a hi-hat, it sounds like a very sort of old school, like Roland hi-hat. So the next thing to do is obviously to EQ it. So we're going to get this filter here, drag this so that it's a high pass, and then you turn this little mode on here, which is just telling the noise oscillator to send the data through here. Just adjust that to taste, so it sounds quite quiet. Turn it up a little bit. And that is like a very rudimentary hi-hat, but obviously it sounds quite sort of simple and plain. There's a lot of things you can do to like improve this. First thing that I'd recommend doing is, instead of just using the noise oscillator itself, is to actually use a carrier signal. So using like a saw wave or sine wave, whatever you want to use. I'm going to use a saw wave. And then what we're going to do is we're going to modulate this with the noise oscillator rather than automating the level. So you just want to right click, remove that. So that's now not going to make any noise. We're just going to get a saw wave. Pretty harsh. And then click on this little kind of 3 dots down here. This is where you can modulate. So we're going to go FM from sample, which basically means it's going to use this as the modulator and this is the carrier wave. It's really cool because you get this really crunchy, nice FM'd noise sound. Obviously that doesn't sound quite right because you've got the level right. So you have to kind of choose where you want this to sit. And that's normally what I do before I adjust like the envelopes, just try and get the tone of it right. You can change the pitch of this as well if you think that brings out that too high a pitch. You kind of get this Frankenstein of the two sounds, which is really cool. And it just gives you a little bit more grit. So now we've got the kind of rough tone of that right, we can then drag this crosshair again, but this time to the level of the first oscillator. So there you go. I mean, that just sounds hugely improved to me. There's a lot more detail and movement because it's sampling this noise at different points and kind of modulating that through the saw wave, so you get just way better sound, way more interesting sound anyway. You know, the beauty of drawing it in an LFO rather than an envelope is you can kind of create an actual pattern which has some slight offset in the timing as well. And if you feel like it's snapping to the grid too much, just hold down Alt. And you can freely drag that closely. You know, you can add your little ghost notes in as well if you want to create like a pattern. So you can just do a little one here, a little one here. There you go. You know, you might want to have the strong beats like kind of hitting on the grid. These ones might want to be a bit like less hard. There's so many things you can try with it. In terms of the effects, there's like a lot you can do, and generally this is kind of where it's up to you really to decide. We've got a really good sound source now, but you might want to add a bit of like soft clipping, you know, something like some chorus or something on top of that, just to widen out the top end. So you bring the spread knob down and that just focuses the chorus on this top end frequency spectrum. You know, just have that like sort of in parallel, like 10%, something like that. As you move that around depending on where you want that to sit. Might add a bit of reverb as well. And the cool thing about the Vital reverb, most reverbs have this, just got this really easy low and high cut knobs. So you can just take out all the kind of reverb that's sitting on the bass. And yeah, the beauty of using hi-hats is that it just fills out your top end in such a flat and smooth way that generally it just makes the mix sound really good. So I'll show you this. Like, look how flat that is. It's literally just perfect. I mean, there's some bass coming through as well, so you might want to put an EQ after. just to take out some of that low end. 2K is sort of like the golden number really for hi-hats and stuff. That's where you want everything to be nice and flat and controlled. That's how you make a basic hi-hat. I'll go through a few examples of presets that I've made now and just show you how they can be slightly different and how you can kind of enhance that with some post-processing.